Now, the most important thing which I find investors do not understand in the case of EB5 is whenever you are being offered a certain rate of return on a project, always think about the cost of capital that the builder of the project or the developer of the project is incurring. Okay, there is a wide gap between the return that the EB5 investor is going to see on a project versus the cost of capital that the investor, that the developer of that project is going to incur. Why do I say that? I say that because, for example, there's a EB5 project somewhere in California in a university town where there is student housing being built, and the builder is offering a 4% rate of interest annually to the EB5 investor. Now, the industry standard for high quality projects in EB5 is usually a 0.25 or 0.5% rate of interest. Okay. Now, if that 4% rate of interest is being offered to the EB5 investor, investors need to keep in mind that the EB5 agency, or the facilitator, the regional center, is also making a significant return on the capital that is being invested. Okay, that return on capital being invested is going straight to the regional center, after which another 4% is going to the EB5 investor, which means, let's say, the industry standard, and then investors should read all the documentation that is provided by the regional center. I think it's extremely important to read the memorandum. They should read the debt agreement, the senior loan agreement that any project has. I have come across projects where investors have not been provided the loan documents associated with the loan that the senior lender has made to a particular project. I have, by God's grace, been able to help those investors to stay away from such projects, because I want to make sure that I know how my capital is going to be treated based on not only the agreement that I have with the builder or the developer, but I also want to know how the person above me in the capital stack is going to get treated in the case of a default or a project failure. Okay, because that is going to determine to a significant extent as to how I'm going to get treated eventually in a court of law. Okay, and without getting too much into the legal ramifications of how these things work, because that's just that's a completely different topic on its own. The key thing that people need to understand is the developer is taking this pool of money raised through EB5 through the regional center. The regional center is the GP here. The regional center, because it is facilitating this investment into a project, is going to earn a certain rate of return. Okay, if you read the memorandum, that rate of return or that rate of interest will be mentioned. Okay, around 5%, let's say. Okay, on top of that, a builder or developer is offering an additional 4% to the EB5 investor. What does that mean? It means that the total cost of capital for the developer in a project taking money from EB5 investors is 9% just for that capital, part of the capital stack, which should tell you how risky that project is. The more risk a project has, the higher the rate of return. And you should also contrast this with the fact that EB5 investors are probably the most powerless class of investors in the US.
The disclaimer is that what I am doing here today is strictly voluntary. A number of folks have approached me in the past after my first interview was posted, after I filed my EB5 application, to get advice on the projects that they were looking to invest in. And it turns out that some people have the suspicion that for some reason I'm getting paid by EB5AN or any other agency to advise people. And I just want to make sure that I'm very clear about this. I am not getting paid to do any of this. This is purely in a volunteer capacity.